regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees. If you'd please stand and join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this takes us to the agenda. Something's come up, and I believe there's going to be a motion to amend.
I would like to amend the agenda to add 6.3, which will deal with the mortar caps in graduation, the design.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to the motion? It's been moved and seconded to amend the agenda to add a new item 6.03 on graduation caps. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. This takes us on to item 1.03, adoption of the agenda as amended. Is there a recommendation that the agenda as amended be adopted as presented and amended?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved to adopt the agenda as amended. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moves us into the recognition section of the agenda. Item 2.01, job well done, Mrs. Smith.
Good evening. Give me just a second. So tonight we get to recognize John Ross, who is here with us. I'm sure most of you probably know him, but we get to know him a little bit more tonight. This will be fun. He's the principal at Mishawaka High School, and John began working at the high school in 1999 as a business teacher. He became the assistant principal in 2007 and moved to the associate principal role in 2014. And then he is currently the principal starting this school year, but he's also been the summer school principal for several years. Now, prior to being at the high school, we have a lot of fun facts about John that a lot of you might not know. So when he was 5, he visited Havana before the revolution in 1958. If you do the math, you can figure out. Yeah. He was at Key West during the Cuban Missile Crisis, graduated with a Bachelor's of Fine Arts from Florida Atlantic University, completed USN navigation training and electronic warfare school in Pensacola in 1976. Worked with Japanese World War II veterans to design reconnaissance aircraft for the JMSDF. I don't know what that is.
Japanese maritime self-defense force.
Okay, thank you. Oh, that's what it was. Developed an improvement program for the high-speed anti-radiation missile. Served as an assistant category manager at NSA. Was in charge of a special projects reconnaissance unit involved in ops around the world. And then was also executive officer of NROTC Notre Dame. So that was all prior to being at School Save Mishawaka. It was pretty impressive. Then I asked John, too. I said, a lot of people want to know things about you. So do you have any hobbies or interests? So this is exactly what he said. His job, history, science, and movies. So if you want more details, you can ask John. I'm sure he would love to have a conversation about that. So, and then one of John's colleagues shared, John Ross is highly intelligent, thoroughly analytical, and excessively comfortable with spreadsheets. I couldn't let it go without talking about spreadsheets tonight. But he does not back down from a challenge. He is honest about issues that occur in public education and fearless in pursuing improvement. So everyone that I've talked to kind of has the same few words to describe John. Very intelligent always comes out first. Hardworking, trustworthy, loyal. And another colleague did share, thinking outside the box and ability to problem solve is second to none. So tonight we get to say to John, job well done. And then we also have a Carrabba's gift card. Oh, we've heard some people have seen you there, so.
Yes. Well, thank you for the recognition. I'm going to tell you one story, though. Okay, so when I finished that project with the Japanese on the reconnaissance aircraft, Japanese Navy captain I've been working with was in fact a petty officer during World War II. He was on some island that was bypassed by the island hopping campaign. And I'm not making any of this up. This guy was when I knew him in the late 70s, early 80s, he was a caricature of a World War II propaganda film. Very gaunt, as you would expect a Japanese guy to be, not the best teeth, round glasses, and he chain smoked like this, which I hadn't seen since I seen some like Humphrey Bogart movie about Nazis, okay? But I'm not kidding. And he spoke very good English, but with a strong accent. And so when they had this farewell luncheon for me, I was sitting with him on the left side, and on the right side was the Japanese admiral in charge of the Fleet Air Force. And he had also been in World War II as an ensign. And he didn't speak very good English, but he was a good-sized guy, all right? So the Japanese captain leans forward and says, to him in Japanese, says, look, tell John what you did in the war. And the admiral gets this big grin on his face, and he goes, Zero, meaning a Japanese Zero fighter aircraft. And then he follows on, again, with a thick accent, B-29, very difficult target. And I'm thinking, well, there you go. So I had a chance to interact with people that had been there, done that. And 40 years before, they would have been pleased to take me out. But now we were working together on something that was mutually beneficial. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
John, you might be the coolest guy in our whole corporation.
Moving on to item 2.02, Mishawaka High School Student of the Month, Mrs. Mann.
She's not here.
Do we not have that present? All right, we'll move on past that presentation, but I'll read the background statement so we all know. Abby Stahl, is Abby here?
No.
Okay, well, she's being honored tonight. She's an outstanding student in the Advanced Culinary Arts program, takes great pride in her academics, and contributes positively to the school environment. Abby is a valued member of the swim team and also does lifeguard duties during PE classes. So congratulations to Abby Staley. Takes us to the comments and questions from the floor section of the agenda. Item 3.01, representatives of the PTA. Item 3.02, representatives of school employees. Item 3.03, representatives of the Mishawaka Education Foundation. Mr. Laban.
Thank you, President Curry, Mr. Barker, members of the board. On behalf of Jane and Matt, thank you for allowing us to speak this evening. The big message is that the MEF Major Saver campaign is here. So please plan on purchasing a $10 card. This card in the past 8 years has raised over $100,000 for the foundation to be able to better equip our staff and our students across the district. This year's card has many new and exciting venues to offer, such as Core Life, Chili's, Chicory Cafe, Fridays, Smoothie King, Urban Swirl, Buffalo Wild Wings, Endeavor Escape Rooms, and many more. One visit to a venue can return your $10 investment, so please, let's help make this the best campaign yet for MEF, and they are available here at the Ad Center from any MEF board member and online as well.
And are they available tonight after the meeting?
That is a great question
They're
that
not.
I do not know the answer to. No,
No.
All right,
no. Thank you.
thank you. Item 3.04 is the general public, but I'll note that no one has signed up to address the board under this agenda item. Takes us into the consent agenda. Item 4.01, approval of the minutes of the February 26, 2020 regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees. It is recommended that the minutes of the February 26, 2020 regular meeting of the board be approved as presented. Item 4.02, approval of bill warrants and payroll. It is recommended that the bill warrants and payroll in the amount of $3,314,882.48 be approved for payment from the appropriate fund. Item 4.03, acceptance of donation. It is recommended that the donations are accepted as listed and documented. The listed donation is Scholastic Books valued at $335 from the Mishawaka Lions Club to our elementary school libraries. Item 4.04, approval of the consent agenda. Is there a recommendation that the Board of School Trustees approve the consent agenda as presented?
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This takes us into the Vision Initiative section of the agenda, item 5.01, Open Enrollment Marketing Campaign Report. Mrs. Smith.
Hello again. So tonight, we're just going to kind of go over just a quick overview of the open enrollment marketing plan for this year. This is kind of the first phase, so this is just kind of showing the platforms where we're going, a little bit of the history as to how we've gotten here, and then probably that end of May, I'll come back with like the deliverables, so you can see what everything is before it goes live. So kind of going back to 2015, so this is the going on the 6th year of our open enrollment. So back in 2015, we had limited openings, and we only had it for grades K through 6. Then in the following year, openings were in grades K through 12, and then 2017 to 2019, we just had openings in K through 9. And it varied by grade as to what we had. One grade could have 5, another one 30, it was kind of all over the place on that, just wherever where we could place the kids. These are the results from the fall ADM of what we took in each of those years for the non-resident students. So in 2015, we brought in 150 new students with a net gain of 110. In the following year, 290 students with a gain of 156. 2017, we brought in 251 students with a net gain of 59. In 2018, it was 257 students with a net gain of 48. And then this past year was 299 students with a net gain of 38. So that was as the fall ADM count for all of those. And so one of the things that, and if you guys have gone to any of the Just the Facts presentations, you may have seen some of these numbers. But the trend showing is, we lose kids in the at the spring count. And this year, since the funding is changing, this was where we went to, let's see. So you can see, obviously we went from minus 17, minus 28, 92. We were kind of growing on that. So this year we only lost 33 kids at the fall count, from fall to spring. So what we did differently this year was on August 14th, you guys had approved to open up the non-resident students throughout the rest of the school year. So when we did that, as of September 16th, which was the day after the fall count, we brought in 33 new students. So without that extra, we would have actually lost 66 students in between instead of the 33. So it did have a positive impact. And so then looking into the future of the numbers that we have, so on February 5th, Mrs. Scheikob had presented the information to the school board on the numbers, and March 31st was set as the deadline for in-district and non-resident requests to come in. And then for the non-resident students, throughout the school year, we'll be accepting them as long as there's openings in the school or the grade that they are requesting. So the openings set were 150 students for kindergarten, and then 100 per grade for grades 1 through 12, which is a large number, but by doing that, we don't have to keep coming back asking for, can we take more kids? And so it'll save everyone a lot of time to be able to do that and just place the kids and keep going. So what we have right now is 1,129 non-resident students throughout the corporation, which is just under 22% of our actual K through 12 students plus the young adult services. And as of right now, we do have 60 new enrollment requests for next year. What's interesting about that is Friday we had 39, Monday was 49, and then as of this morning, 60. So it is growing pretty quick too. And then last night we did an enrollment night. This was the first time we've done it. It was here at the Ad Center, and since this is kindergarten registration week, that's what kind of sparked having that happen. So it started as kindergarten registration to be convenient for parents, and then we thought, well, if someone's interested in Bethel, they have to come here anyway. Non-resident has to come here, so we just kind of opened it up for everyone. So we did have 2 in-district kindergarten kids sign up last night. One that's in district but was requesting Bethel. And then we did have 5 non-resident students, and those were kindergarten, 3rd, 5th, and 7th grade, so it wasn't all just kindergarten. And also 2 of those people that showed up didn't know they were out of district, so they would have had to come here anyway, so it actually saved them an extra trip of going to a school and stuff, and so we did get them signed up. So the plan we're looking at this year for the marketing standpoint, so again, we're going to continue the theme of tomorrow's leaders are found here. This year, we are going to create a new radio ad because we've used the same one the last couple of years. So it's time to do an update, as well as a fresh updated on the banner ads, what you see on social media. We'll be working with Big Idea Company. And also this year, we've added that non-resident requests can be submitted online. So that's why I think one of the reasons it's been really helpful. So people don't have to come in here to do things. They can do it on their own time. So, and then this is also just a time to, when it comes to the open enrollment marketing plan, this is my 5th year doing this. So a lot of people start talking to me about, oh, we got this great program. We got to talk about this program and this program. So one thing to keep in mind is throughout the year, we should be talking about all of those. And then this is kind of 15 seconds to say, sign up now. Is kind of what it is. So that's why we kind of put the extra money into this plan to get the word out on that. So, and then these are the platforms that we're looking at. This is actually the same that we did last year for the most part. So we'll have the digital outdoor, which are the billboards. There's 2 of those that we have. The ones by Chili's on Grape Road, and then the other one is Ironwood and Lincoln Way. So those are the 2 areas where we have those. For radio, we've had U93 and B100 the last couple, no, I'm sorry, U93 and Sunny 101.5, and we're adding B100. So we're going to have another area there. We've had Pandora the last couple of years. Last year we added Spotify, so we're going to continue with those. Obviously social media, which we'll have Facebook and Instagram, and then the digital ads where we can do some of the really targeted geofencing and things. So, so lots of different ways to quickly reach people and with very targeted demographics. So one of the other things that we're going to be doing this year is more of a welcoming for the new families, and this was Mr. Barker's idea. So when new families are accepted, they'll get a letter saying, you know, that you've been accepted, and then they'll get a second one that says which school they've been accepted to. So the first time, rather than just send a regular letter and kind of be boring, we thought, why not do something fun? So we kind of did something like what colleges do. So, so what families will get is this first letter saying congratulations, and then the backside when they flip it over says you're in. And then it says tomorrow's leaders are found here. So just something to be a little more welcoming. And then when they get the second letter saying, which building they're going to, it'll say welcome to SCM with your future begins here. Let me just walk away. So those are the couple things we're doing, just a few things that we kind of add to it. So, and then the reasons that people have been choosing here, very similar to what we've had, better opportunities, keep siblings together. Kids that were in the pre-K program, they want to stay here, they live on the border. Daycare's close by, heard great things about Bethel, safe environment, recommended by family, friend, coworkers, that comes up a lot. Ready to try a new district, and then some of the older kids, it's actually been the child's choice. So those are kind of the reasons. So that's just kind of a quick snapshot of where we're going with it. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Seems like a well-thought-out approach. And
Thank you.
We've been
Thank you.
successful in the past and look forward to continuing that.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I was going to tell you too, sorry, real quick. The 60 kids that we do have so far, I did have the breakdown that 35 of those are for kindergarten. So we are, you know, that's a great number. 2 for first grade, 3 for second grade, 3 for third, 3 for fourth, 1 for fifth, 2 for sixth, 3 for seventh, 6 for ninth grade, and 1 for 10th. So that's what we're looking at right now. And we already have 14 kids for Bethel, and there's only 22 openings, so we'll probably have a wait list again. And out of those, 9 are in district and 5 are non-resident. So, yeah, sorry, yes.
Well, the open enrollment, obvious, was a good idea, and it's working.
Right.
And just quick figuring, 66 students from the state and federal means about just shy $435,000. So
Right.
it was well worth doing.
Right, yeah, because you only lost the 33 at that spring count rather than the
Yeah.
66. So yeah, that did make up that difference, so.
So I went back and from the beginning, 2015 through 2019, 2020, the average cost was about $550 per student, which is excellent, excellent payback.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
very
we
good
try
program.
to keep it within a budget and every, you know,
Correct.
so that we're getting the most out of the money. That's why we've been going more to the digital and getting away from some of the mailings and things that get lost in the mail. And because just one direct mail is about $5,000. So if you do a couple of those, like that's really a big chunk of your budget when you could put a lot of that money into the digital ads and the very targeted approach. So.
I wonder those that say that they're ready to try a new district, are they from the east or the west of us?
You know what? I would have to I can pull that and find out. But yeah, that would be, who knows? Maybe they're from the south. I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pretty good.
Thank you. This takes us to the reports and discussion items section of the agenda. 6.01, the COVID-19 coronavirus update. Mr. Barker and Ms. Sauer.
Yes, thank you, President Curry, members of the board. We're going to, actually, Sarah Hickel is going to join us in that presentation tonight, and along with Mrs. Sauer. I'll start by just saying that we continue to actively monitor the rapidly changing developments surrounding coronavirus 2019 or COVID-19 and how they may impact school city of Mishawaka. We've been working in conjunction with the St. Joseph County Department of Health, the Indiana Department of Education, and the other state education groups while following the recommendations of the Centers for Disease Control. We're also in daily communication with our partners at St. Joseph Health System. Today, the St. Joseph County Department of Health reported the first case of COVID-19 in the St. Joseph County. Statewide, there are now 11 cases of COVID-19. At a news conference held this afternoon, our county's chief health officer made these announcements and recommendations. No schools are being canceled, and there is no recommendation to do so at this time. The elderly and those with significant health conditions should avoid mass gatherings. No more handshaking. Elbow bumps or peace signs are now the new way. Encourage social distancing of keeping 6 feet at gatherings. Avoid people who are coughing or sneezing because the virus is spread by droplets. Public health nurses will be tracing this patient's history since exposure to determine who might have been exposed to the virus. These recommendations were not a surprise to us. We met with other school leaders and officials from the St. Joseph County Health Department yesterday. They shared relevant information and explained the county's emergency protocol. They assured us we will be notified directly should any tests for COVID-19 come back positive for one of our students or staff members. Of course, details will not be shared due to HIPAA and FERPA regulations. I want to make this point very clear. The safety of our students, staff, and families has always been and will always be our top priority. We will act out of an abundance of caution to protect everyone's health and well-being. It is important to note that we are focusing our efforts on prevention, communication, and education, and are not at this time making definitive determinations on what-if scenarios. Determining the best course of action and reaction to exposure and infection will always depend on the specific situation details, and we will not conjecture responses about that. It will always be on a case-by-case basis. We acknowledge that we're not health experts, and for that reason, we feel fortunate to have the wisdom and expertise of our great staff working alongside all of our community partners and county and state health experts. We had the meeting with the Department of Health yesterday, and I came back and we met with our team, and we divided up work that Sarah will take you through, but feel really good about our team here. I think you find out a lot about people when there's some added adversity, and we have a great team here who's worked very hard, worked very closely together, and I'm proud of all of them. So this time I'll turn it over to Sarah.
So in that meeting yesterday, our focus was on providing accurate and consistent information, as well as providing direction that was specific to each of the stakeholder groups and making sure that we were providing them the necessary resources. At that meeting, we created communication teams, as you can see on the slide. The following teams focused on the following stakeholder groups. So Katie Stockstill and Bart Michaelis created guidance for educators. This document, which you have in your materials, provides talking points, instructional aids, and resources to support instruction, and is really focused on supporting our teachers with having developmentally appropriate conversations with our students so that our students are informed. Jenny Sanders created messaging to ensure that employees understand our medical insurance coverage and coronavirus do's and don'ts, and provided some really nice, concise tips.
Meg Sauer's focus was to produce family and staff communication letters, providing assurances of our preventative measures and the Department of Health's recommendations, and you have those materials with you as well. Jen has made sure that our website is the central location for curating communication and resources and making sure that those resources are clear, concise, and accurate. Jerome and I focused on 2 different stakeholder groups. For our school nurses, we messaged the chain of communication and responsibility related to health information. Luckily, St. Joe Health has done a great job of supporting our school nurses with information and protocols and procedures, but they have quickly become the front line for information. So we wanted to make sure that they understood the flow of that communication both in and out. Jerome and I also messaged plans, coordination, and communication expectations to our building administration, providing scripting and screening questionnaires to use with gathering appropriate information when student, staffs, or parent are communicating critical information to make sure that we have information to make informed decisions. At this time, Meg is going to elaborate on our preparation and coordination efforts.
Thanks, Sarah. Last week, I was able to attend a COVID-19 summit at St. Joe Health Systems. It was filled with a lot of different people, staff members and school members and that sort of people from the community. But I was able to learn some of the best practices to implement, and in some cases, the information reaffirmed what we were already doing, which was nice to hear. Some of those things are the use of the CDC guidelines for cleaning and sanitizing common surfaces and buses, communicating to staff and students that if you are sick, you need to stay home and at least 24 hours until after all your symptoms are gone. A lot of this stuff seems like common sense, but it really is good to repeat it to everyone. The practice of our school nurses reporting absenteeism to St. Joe Health System, who in turn report it to the state, so absentee trends can be tracked on a daily basis, and this has been done for quite a while. Symptoms typically show at around 5 days after exposure, but a patient may be symptomatic anywhere from 2 to 14 days. A patient is most likely to be contagious when symptoms show because the virus is most often spread by droplets from coughing and sneezing. There was a lot of fear that people were contagious before the symptoms showed. They could be, but most likely not. The morbidity rate is 3.4% for COVID-19, according to the World Health Organization. But that does not mean you have a 3.4% chance of dying if you get sick. The population most at risk is 80 years old with underlying health concerns. And the population that's least at risk, good for us, is the school-aged population. I think in China, the youngest person who died was 9 years old. It's also very good that the cases will increase. We just got the tests locally. They had just been getting the tests and told us about how it would all work when I was at the summit. The number of cases will go up, and that's a good thing because the morbidity rate will go down. So we know what to plan for. The amount of information available now can be overwhelming. And School City of Mishawaka's goal is to be a resource of good information to our stakeholders. A coronavirus update page has been linked to all of our websites. This is where we will post and keep an archive of our communications that go out to staff and students and families, and we will share best practices to stay healthy and other information to help our staff and school families navigate this uncharted health situation. Superintendent Barker sent a message to our schools and staff, and you will see those in your folder of information. You'll see the education piece that Katie and Barb worked on, and quite a bit of information in there that has all kind of been made available to our various stakeholders. And finally, Indiana State Health Commissioner Chris Bach said, I urge Hoosiers to continue to educate themselves about this illness and take common sense precautions, but also to be aware that the vast majority of COVID-19 cases are mild in individuals without underlying medical conditions. So we just wanted to leave you with that information.
Thank you. Well, it's a very sobering situation, and I'm really pleased to see that we're taking, very early proactive measures on this. And certainly hope that perhaps we're being over-prepared, but it's rather than under-prepared, but it's better. The discretion's the better part of valor when faced with something that's with as many unknowns as this is, and hopefully it won't be as bad as is predicted, but if it is, we'll be prepared. So thank you very much for getting the information out, because being well-informed is being forearmed on something like this.
I appreciate the amount of communication that's been put out by the schools. I work at a international firm, so obviously it's been communicated a lot within Crow as well. But I'd just like to say that when people are scared and they don't know what's going on, COVID-19's new, it's scary, people don't really know what's going on, there's a lot of fear of death. Your communication has, I think, tampered down some of the hysteria that could happen here in Mishawaka, and I think that's really important. Keeping staff, students, medical professionals, parents, everybody in the loop on what our plans are, what's going on, the day-to-day updates. I went on the website today and there was a notification there, and that's fantastic. That's saying we're in charge of it, we know what we're doing, and we have a plan. That plan is going to change when the case changes, but we got this. And I think that's really important. That helps build trust within our community.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, then we'll move on to item 6.02, the January financial report. Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Curry, members of the board. Per usual, if the board has any specific questions on the financial statements, please stop and ask me at any time. We're early in the year, so there's not really a ton to talk about, but yeah, Bruce, if you could stay on the education fund there for a second. January was a 3-pay month, so things don't look good from a cash balance perspective, which is typical in a 3-pay month. But I did want to point some other items out in the education fund. We paid out roughly $170,000 in retroactive salary, so increases that went to teachers and administrators went in place in January, but were retroactive to the start of their contract. So again, a large expenditure that's a one-time payout. And then there was our annual severance payout, which exceeded. Was just over $100,000 in the education fund, so that shows up in the benefit line items. So just wanted to explain why we're, in terms of a percentage, we're a little bit far ahead at the end of January. 3-pay month, retroactive salary, and then our annual payout for severance all factor into the loss of revenue in terms of looking at the education fund for the month of January. Really, the only other fund I wanted to talk about, Bruce, if you could scroll down to the operations fund. Yes. And so very similarly, you can see a loss in cash balance due to the 3-pay month again. We did pay out retroactive salary of about $25,000 this month, and then an annual severance payout just over $7,000. So again, why the expenditures are a little bit ahead at the end of January. But otherwise, those things taken into consideration, things are pretty much on track with how they were budgeted, at least through 1 month of the school year. So again, happy to answer any questions the board may have, but there was really nothing else I wanted to highlight for the month of January.
Any questions for Mr. Newman? All right, thank you. That will take us to newly added item 6.03, graduation caps and mortarboard decoration. The last board meeting, we received a really excellent report and request from 3 young ladies who are here with us this evening on the pros and cons of allowing students to graduate their graduation caps. After consideration, we decided, in discussion with the high school and other people within the administration, we decided to put this on the agenda with a recommendation that this be allowed this year. subject to development of appropriate guidelines. And of course, it'll be something to be reviewed so stick to the guidelines. All right. So that's the recommendation. Is there a motion on the recommendation?
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation. Is there any discussion on the motion?
We might want to have 4 or 5 or 6 mortar boards in case someone's wearing a fruit bowl on there, that they would still be able to graduate with that.
Well, that'd be all part of the guidelines. I imagine there's going to be a page of regulations and rules and things to watch out for. And I have to tell you, I'm really looking forward to graduation this year. This is going to be a lot of fun. And it was a wonderful presentation. It showed a great deal of creativity. And I look forward to seeing the creativity expressed on graduation day. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations, ladies.
Look how happy they are.
All right, under Human Resources, item 7.01, the personnel report. Mr. Calderon.
President Curry, Superintendent Barker, school board members, it is recommended that the personnel report dated March 11th, 2020 be approved as presented.
Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the report as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving into the curriculum, instruction, and technology section of the agenda, item 8.01, new course additions for the 2020-2021 school year. Mr. Ross.
Yeah, I'm not texting, I'm looking up what I am proposing to you. All right, so we've talked in the past about various requirements. So is it on the slide on there? Yeah, there it is. Oh, there. All right. Anyway, so the state, and I don't really consider them the evil state, okay? But they always change things. And one of the things they change is they've added some new course requirements. And in order to meet pathway requirements, you have to make sure you've got the required prerequisites. Can you go back to that slide? Where you were a second ago? So there are about 5 courses we're adding to the inventory. And actually, there's a couple bonus courses that I didn't tell you about until now. All right, well, and the reason why I say that is that I had a conversation this past Friday with DOE because I even quoted their own regulations. In one set of regulations, it says you have to do this, but in another set of regulations, it says, well, no, you should do this. And they weren't exactly contradictory, but they weren't consistent. So I got some guidance on them and how all of this works. So without making this too laborious and painful of a story, those 5 DOE codes at the bottom, design fundamentals, which is being added to the graphic design pathway, basically. Computer science, just finishing off that 4-year pathway. Introduction to entrepreneurship, which I think is rather odd in the sense that we were already allowed to teach the advanced course, but for some reason, the introductory course wasn't on the inventory, so that may have been a slip up by them, I think, but perhaps not. And then we've got a couple of project-based learning classes, Project Lead the Way classes that are engineering focused, but when they changed all the things they changed, it had a very specific series of prerequisites that you can't get there from here. So part of the conversation I had with DOE on Friday was, okay, so how do we make this work? And they recommended that we use these 2 special topics classes, one in engineering and technology, the other one in advanced manufacturing, as a segue to get kids to get to a 4-year program if they're interested in doing something for 4 years. There's a couple of different ways of solving this problem. That's one of them. The other one is to put in a course modification request that says, hey, let's change the prerequisites from this to this. And there's some advantage in doing it that way as well, but right now I'm going for the simplest process. And in order for us to submit this to the Career Center for them to broker it, we have to, get your endorsement that we should press on this way.
All right.
All right. Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to recommend the new course change offerings. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Ross. Item 8.02, Learn Platform updates, EdTech impact analysis and data privacy. Mr. Books.
Making sure this was clean before I picked it up. Good evening, everyone. My name is Wade Books. Just as a reintroduction of myself, since I wasn't here officially for my hiring board meeting, I apologize to Sarah for that one earlier, but I'm the curriculum integration specialist here. I took over for Katie when she moved to her new position this past school year, so I started in July. A lot of my work this year has been working with teachers in the classroom, especially working with incorporating EdTech into their different teaching practices. And so tonight I'm going to review a program that we've had for the past couple of years here, as well as that we had in my old district at DeKalb that we used called LearnPlatform, that helps us provide some kind of analysis and analysis to those EdTech tools, making sure that they're actually giving us the bang for our buck, so to speak. So just as an overview, with LearnPlatform specifically, okay, their tagline is the first 3 bullet points there, which their priorities as an organization is to help save time, money, and improve outcomes for school districts. So that's kind of what their purpose is. For us, though, the way in which we've been utilizing LearnPlatform is to evaluate district-adopted EdTech through usage tracking, to make sure that we're getting return on investment of the EdTech products that we do purchase through impact reporting, and then making sure that we're ensuring student data privacy through effective management of those pieces. So just to kind of quickly go through points 1, 2, and 3 and what those tangibly look like in our district, we start by looking at usage tracking. So the one piece I really enjoy about this is as a person, working with teachers and with students, and seeing what students and teachers are using. This isn't a gotcha moment where I'm trying to figure out what teacher and what students are on what, and so I can kind of come down on that. It gives me an insight anonymously to just the links that our students and staff are clicking on to paint me a picture of what they're accessing on their devices. And I'll tell you, first off, everything there is fine. Okay, so we're good. We're good there. There's nothing bad in there. And it's what we would expect, right? All the things that are listed in the top 10 that I put on this page are tech tools that we purchase and that we use, and use well. And so it just gives me an insight that the pieces that we have there are pieces that they're utilizing. The other piece I like about this is after the product name on that second column to the right, you see approved status. LearnPlatform is in thousands of districts across the US, and what it provides us is an insight into what other districts and what LearnPlatform recommends usage for based on grade band levels. And so we kind of have an understanding of, if I do a quick look here, okay, Google Drive, what kind of kids would use this? Well, K-12 it's appropriate for. Where there are some times where it may be more of a 6-8 or a 9-12. We want to kind of quickly identify those. The third column over talks about privacy status. Student privacy is a huge concern, especially in today's day and age. And so what we get to see is, has LearnPlatform and the users of this, the tens of thousands of users of this, been able to look and see, are these programs, when we share our student and teacher data with them, are they using it appropriately? Compliant means yes. And we can see the different degrees of compliancy within that. If we see an unknown, I can kind of go, okay, wait a minute, what's going on that a top 10 piece is unknown? Well, in this case, Google is approved, but the individual pieces of Google just didn't quite, they approved Google, but not not Google Slides or Google Drive. So I know that's fine. So if I see an unknown up there, I can go back into looking at the actual places, products, privacy policies in terms of service, and let our teachers know, hey, this is fine, we're good to go, or we might want to question what they're doing with our student data when we put these kids on there. That's an important piece. So there's a usage tracking piece that our department uses just to kind of get an understanding of where we are with usage-wise. Blown up image there. The more powerful piece when it comes to actually looking at return of investment is looking at impact reporting. So we just finished our first rapid eval cycle for impact reporting. And the way this works is you can do it by hand, because I have, and it's awful, and I would never recommend it, I need some help, Mr. Ross, and some spreadsheets, I think, with that, because I was a little slow on the uptake. But what essentially you're doing is you're taking assessment data and you're taking usage data and you're trying to figure out if there's a correlation between the two of those things. So what we're trying to hope for, right, is that the more usage of the platform, the higher assessment scores we have, so we have a strong correlation between those things. Okay? The little red, yellow, and green half circle helps determine in a quick glance if that's actually happening or not. Now, I will caution that I don't like the colors because I feel like they are a little misleading. Like green is fine. Green means we're on track. The tool it's doing its job, and the way we're using it's working. Red, we need to kind of look at this because there's a negative correlation. Kids who are on this more are somehow doing worse. That's not good. The yellow, though, in my mind, yellow means caution, right? And so as I look at that, though, what it's telling me is to examine other factors. There's something going on with the data where there's no clear picture, and so you need to dig a little bit deeper. So the 3 reports in the top left all have, you can see a small yellow circle there on the right. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that I need to dig deeper into those and look at like what specifically is happening. Like in this graph here, okay? All these dots represent grade levels, okay? K through 6. This is about iReady, which is our online math diagnostic, which is like our assessment for beginning of year, middle of year. And then it also takes into account how much time students are spending in completing lessons on the online iReady platform. It shows me, with a high correlation coefficient, that kindergarten, the more time and the more they do on this, the better the kids are performing on the assessment, which is awesome. Okay? It shows me that in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, I see very similar results. But in 4th and 5th, in 5th and 6th, I don't quite see that strong correlation. Doesn't mean it's not working. It just means that my responsibility, our department's responsibility, is to go back to teachers and be like, what are you seeing within your classrooms as you look at 5th and 6th grade students? And why might this be happening? Or do I divvy down further? Do I look at, is there a gender piece? Is there a race ethnicity piece? Is it high ability? Is it exceptional learners? I can look at all those pieces and pull that apart and really dig into what we're seeing with our students, which is really helpful. An example that we saw last year of this, the Ms. Stocksell shared with you, I believe, back in probably sometime in the summer. This was something that came out from our summer school program. For students who didn't quite do as well in iRead as we wanted them to in 3rd grade, in summer school, had the opportunity to take it again. And so what we did was we put them on Reading Eggs, which is it's a platform that works on early literacy skills and reading comprehension. We put them on that as part, just one piece of their summer school. And then we had them take iRead again, iRead 3 again. And we saw that kids who were on the platform more often passed iRead 3. So what we did is we took that small subset of kids and we said, what if we expand this to K3? You know, we already had it for kindergarten. What if we expand this to K3 and what does that look like? I'll let you know at the end of the year. But that's the process we're in right now, is looking at this. So also it gives us a good understanding of return on investment. Like we know it worked, and so we know kind of how to angle those monies with that. The last piece that I'll just quickly touch on, that's a goal for next year, is what do I do when a teacher comes to me and says, wait, how do I even begin to figure out what to use with my kids? How do I even begin to figure out like if this is appropriate or not? Right now, our approval process between the curriculum and instruction technology departments is a collective effort of us trying to figure out from Common Sense Media, is this appropriate? We're digging and trying to find privacy policies in terms of service. We're trying to figure out, I'm emailing any contact I met, like, hey, have you ever used this before? And is it purposeful? And how did you use it? Instead, LearnPlatform has that information for me. And so what they've allowed us to do now is build within the platform an ability just to give teachers a form and say, if you want to try something out, fill this form out and tell me how you're going to use it. And then the curriculum instruction and technology departments can sit down and look and be like, all our information's here. Does it check our boxes? Okay, now let's talk about what this looks like. So just that workflow piece as we move into next year should be a lot easier. The last part, just as a summary, so what we're going to continue to do is monitor usage, right? And just see, making sure that the things that our kids and teachers are on are compliant. Making sure that we're going to really focus on the return of investment. I'll run these same reports again in the spring, just to kind of give us a clearer picture of the school year. and that will help us figure out renewal of contracts and what we decide to purchase or not. And then also analyze the impact of those ed tech tools on student learning and what that really means for our department and for our kids in our district. And the next step for next year that I'm working with currently in conjunction with technology department, our department is looking at building that ed tech request process and putting that out to teachers for implementation in 2021. So making sure that process is up and ready to go. So they try to take that load off our teachers of, I want to use this, but I don't know how to even get started. Fill out 5 boxes and I got you, right? Like that's kind of the motto for trying to help them out with that. So that's a very, very, very brief summary of LearnPlatform and our work with that. Are there any questions I can clarify?
Any questions? It's nice to see a data-driven approach to improvement. It helps us measure our success and see what works and what doesn't. And
Awesome.
get a lot more traction that way.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you guys for your time.
All right, into business and operations. Item 9.01, consideration of the Mishawaka City Hall building. Mr. Barker?
Thank you, President Curry. Tonight, I intended for us to have a discussion about the City Hall building acquisition possibility for School City of Mishawaka, but there has been some new information that's been given to us. So I would like to ask for you to table this item to give us some more time to consider that information. And as soon as we've had a chance to do that, we'll bring it back as an agenda item for your discussion.
Is there a motion to table?
Move to table.
Or second?
Okay, Amanda has moved to table. Holly is seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. This is tabled pending review of the additional information, at which time it will be brought back for board discussion and action. Item 9.02, recommendation to approve student device purchases for 2020-2021 school year. Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Curry, members of the board. At the September 25th, 2019 board meeting, the Board of School Trustees approved the application for the fall 2019 Common School Technology Loan. Part of this loan, in fact, the majority of this loan included the purchase of student devices for the 2020-2021 school year. If approved, these Chromebooks will be deployed to 7th, 8th, and 9th grades next year. The administration received 3 quotes from CDW Government, IT Savvy, and Troxel. In utilizing their cooperative purchasing contract through Sourcewell, which is formerly NJPA, National Joint Powers Alliance, CDW Government had the lowest quoted price of $303,309, which includes the device and the Chrome education license. So we are recommending approval of the purchase of Chromebooks from CDW Government for the 2020-2021 school year.
Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Takes us to the final item in the section of the agenda, communications, item 11.01, public announcements. Mishawaka High School Performing Arts will present Shrek the Musical this weekend, March 13th, 14th, and 15th. The next regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees will be held on March 25th, 2020 at Hums Elementary School at 3208 Harrison Road here in Mishawaka, Indiana. Is there any more business to come before the board? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you all.